Ed Grove's on the fly rod on the right. Of course, Bob Garner's on the left. We've been fishing here at this little lake for a couple hours this morning. We're trying to catch the bluegills on the beds. This is the time of year they've just started here in Michigan. We're using fly rods, fly reels, and it isn't expensive, it isn't difficult, it's a lot of fun, and you can do it. But let me explain to you a little bit about why it's so easy at this time of year to catch bluegill. Right here you can see in water that's less than knee deep, we have this depression right here. This is a bluegill bed, right here. That ring around there is what the bluegill scoops out with its tail and piles up the sand, and down in the middle here he gets down to the little deeper gravel, the darker gravel, and that's where the female lays her eggs. Now the male bluegill are the ones that are guarding these nests, and these nests are all over. You can see some dark areas out here. There's lots of these little depressions, and there's generally a bluegill on every one. In fact, what we're talking about here is not giant bluegill by any stretch of the imagination. I have maybe a half dozen right here. Here's a bluegill. This is one I caught not long ago, and it's a small one, but it's good enough for our simple sunfish recipe, which we're going to have coming up. Called a bluegill. Obviously, you can see its gill cover here, very blue, has that black lobe, and it has bars. You can see the faint bars. The bigger ones have more predominant bars. But that's the bluegill, member of the sunfish family. Oftentimes in Michigan waters you catch another type of sunfish right here. This is called a pumpkin, oops, still alive, this is called a pumpkin seed. See little stripes there around the gill cover? In fact, I'll compare this with the bluegill. You can see the difference. See, this one has stripes along the cover, although they do look similar. And the pumpkin seed doesn't have nearly as a predominant gill flap right there, and this is quite a large one. But that's how you can tell the bluegill from the pumpkin seeds, but mainly they're the same fish if we're talking about catching them off the beds. What we're doing is catching them on flies. Now this outfit that I'm using is not expensive. In fact, to tell you, it's very cheap. This rod they don't even make anymore. It's one that I won in a raffle, and that was about 10 years ago. Inexpensive rod. This fly line has been on it for about 10 years. The leader is in terrible shape, frankly. It's a tapered leader I bought, but you can see here it even has where I've got some wind knots in it, and they've come out, if you can see right there. You see that? I'm leaving these things in here to show you that it can be done with inexpensive tackle. Of course, what we're talking about is casting flies. The fly that I'm using is one that's been tied on this same leader for a couple years. We've just used it over and over. This is a rubber spider. You can see right here, it imitates a spider, an insect. It's just a little bit of foam rubber on about a number 8 or number 10 hook, and we float this over the beds. The bluegill, as I said, the males are on the beds, they're guarding the nest because bass and all kinds of little fish will come in, and of course they want to eat the babies when they hatch out, but they'll also scarf up the eggs. So the bluegill, the males guard the nest, and if anything comes near the nest, they chase them out of there. If it's another fish, or even if it's an insect coming across the top of the bed. Now with this wind, it's kind of difficult to see, but there's beds out here all over, and I'm going to see if I can't show you, if we can't see one coming up. Now look at the length of the cast I made. You say, that's ridiculous. Well, I'll bet you I can get one to come up here to the fly, making about a 10 or, there, right? Oh, did you see that, Dick? Couldn't see it, huh? Well, you can see the rubber, okay, the rubber spider is floating right here. You could come up closer over my shoulder, Dick. Oh, right there, you see that?
Yep, we got it.
Okay. Now look at the length of the cast that I made. That isn't really even what you'd call a